We pretend we're live. We are here with season 3 of 2019 of the ProBots tournament. Excellent stuff. But as you can see, we are joined here today by Mr. Stephen Brown, SKJB, and we are going to kick things off with a bit of the AlphaStar goodness that came out recently. So we've got 3 games from each of the different races of AlphaStar, and we're going to take a look at those. How's it going today, Stephen?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty excited about this AlphaStar news and wishing I was over in BlizzCon to see hopefully some more announcements coming in the next couple of days.
Yeah, should be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to what their release is as well. And I'm hoping that they're gearing up towards the idea of setting like a big show match or something against like the top players.
It'd be nice if the winner of the WCS played against AlphaStar and they did it on the big stage, maybe.
Yeah, that would be pretty good. I think that's what I want to be seeing. So, yeah, we got this guy too.
Oh, I'm just a simple Pokemon. Technically the worst Pokemon because if it rains, I die.
The other problem is I do not have enough badges to train you.
It's true. So, you know,
so
but
part of it.
Maybe after this we can we'll do a Pokemon stream. You can try to catch me or something.
Definitely.
But I'm just excited for some AlphaStar. We are going to be doing our normal ProBots just after this. This is just a special AlphaStar segment. So definitely stay tuned and get all your bot making friends in here because we've got 7 awesome games coming up tonight after this.
Yeah.
So and what else we got? Oh yeah, don't forget to type !join, become a Crown Club member. You can get access to live events, VODs before everybody else. You also get access members only rooms in the Discord. So definitely worth the while. And you can also subscribe to Twitch, help support all of the events we do here on ES Champ.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think Tara's ready. Are we ready for game 1?
I think so. Tara, can you invite me to whatever this game is?
Oh, and I'm super out of character. I'll just Charmander. Char. That's all I'm going to do the rest of the night.
You can't play it on the clean feed because I need to be able to show it.
All right, so we'll be having our first game soon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Steven, what is your favorite part about AlphaStar so far? You've been following it, obviously?
Yeah,
what are you most excited for it?
It's really interesting because I think last time we saw it, they had only really worked with Protoss. And now they've expanded out to Zerg and Terran, and then they've put it on the ladder and they're playing against humans, and that's kind of pretty amazing to see, and it's doing so well. And I think surprised a lot of people in the machine learning community because we thought it was years and years and years away, and then they seem to make a huge amount of progress in a short couple of months, a year or so. So it's kind of interesting to see where it's gotten to, and then potentially where it can go. They're talking about adapting what they built into other areas. So who knows, they might go, StarCraft is kind of solved now. We need to go and solve some other complicated thing. I don't know what else it would be.
Now, what do you think the biggest hurdle, just kind of comparing it to our bots that we have in our, ProBots League? What's the biggest hurdle or the biggest difference between, the bots that all of us are making, obviously besides money and that kind of thing and time put into it, but
and
what's a hurdle that they could maybe overcome to get their bot up to AlphaStar level or start making that, start getting it in that direction?
Yeah. So one of the things that DeepMind learned with AlphaStar is typically with machine learning or with this sort of reinforcement learning, you let it just play the game and do whatever it wants to do, and then it'll eventually figure something out. But they did it with chess. But of course, with the chessboard, there's only so many pieces and so many places things can be, and you can see the opposition, you can see everywhere. StarCraft, obviously, a map is extremely large, and there's however many hundreds of units, and there's the fog of war, so you can't see things, so it's quite complicated. And when they first started out, they were training it to just do whatever it wanted, and it would just, there was just way too much stuff for it to try and figure out, so it was doing anything and everything. And then now they've kind of figured out, well, what we're going to do is we're going to teach this bot how humans play the game. So they trained it with a bunch of replays and those sorts of things. And so it sort of kickstarts it with the way the humans play, and then they let it kind of explore and do whatever it wants. And one of the big things that they've actually introduced in the latest paper that they released is that they kind of one thing they do is a thing called self-play. So they did that with AlphaZero and AlphaGo, those kinds of things where the bot would play against itself and then it would get better against itself and continue to improve. And there's this problem they describe as like a paper, scissors, rock, where let's say you're training a bot how to play paper, scissors, rock. Well, it might favor paper until it goes out, oh, I keep getting beaten by scissors, and then it goes, oh, I'll play scissors every time, and it goes, oh, I keep getting beaten by rock, and then so on and so on, and around it goes. So they had this kind of problem where I was exploring and doing anything, and then getting caught going around in circles trying to beat itself. So what they seem to have done with it is kind of teach it human strategies or limit it to human strategies, and also teach it how to play various strategies and not sort of forget. They call it sort of forgetting. And so I guess my point here is that for someone who's making a bot and coding a bot manually, actually following what a human does is quite a good foundation for a bot, and you could introduce parts of machine learning into that. And so it's kind of a good place to start. The other thing is APM. It was kind of a weird calculation, but they said it takes 22 agent actions per
5 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then an action is really 3 actions, I think they were describing.
It's a bit vague because an agent action, like they said that moving the screen is an agent action.
Yeah.
But that doesn't count towards your APM. But then one agent action, like I know with the raw actions interface, you can just say, take these units and then attack this location in one move. So that's where you would normally have to click on the screen and then say, A move over here or whatever, so there's a few more moves involved. So I guess they've kind of averaged that out and worked that out. But even then, it's not an extremely high APM. It's not, 1,000 or 2,000 APM.
Discord.
So it doesn't mean you don't have to build a bot that acts extremely quickly. You can sort of simplify it a little bit and not have to get too extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. I found that the interesting part, and I kind of want to see in some of these games what the APM, like as we traditionally see it, clocks in at. Because from reading that, just on its face value, it sounded like they're capping it at like 20 APM, but I don't think that's true. Like the way they described it,
I thought.
Yeah, it's got to be. But the way that they were describing it of like 22 actions per 5 seconds. And then they were like, but an action could be 3 moves or like whatever. Let's see.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably close to 300 APM.
Yeah, sounds reasonable.
350. Yeah.
All right. Well, we can watch it now. We're going to hop into our first game. It is loaded as long as you're streaming in Discord there again, EnderSword.
So, yeah. Steven, can you see that?
Yep, I've got it there.
All right.
All right. Good stuff. So it looks like down here on the bottom left, we have our filthy human.
Do we know who it is?
I think they're intentionally obscuring the names, but they just seem to have the names as Grandmaster Player. It'd be funny if we could try and figure out who this. I bet you could, like by using replay analysis sort of tools. You could probably figure out who it was.
Is this just a ladder game? I'm assuming.
I think these are ladder games, so anonymized players. But someone will see it and be like, "That's me," for sure. And then up here, who do we have? Who's this person?
I don't know. Who is? It's not. It's not a person.
It's not a person.
Duped. It's a robot.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Now, Steve, do you think this is the the first stages of the robot uprising? Do you think it will spawn from something as innocuous as StarCraft, perhaps? A simple game.
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, it's literally we're training it to kill right here. So
yeah, exactly.
I thought
How'd
one
you
of the
like it?
most interesting things from some of the first replays that they had released is that we're not only training it to kill, we're training it to deceive. It seemed to not have an
Yep.
issue with the concept of doing stuff for the purpose of deception, not for the purpose of like gain. And I want to
Yeah,
see if it
you
does
tend
stuff
to
like
learn
that.
meta.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the interesting things that they mentioned is that they sort of, I guess, nudge the bot in the direction of doing human openness.
Mhm.
So it seems like they had trouble getting the bot to sort of learn how to start a game.
Yeah.
But maybe once it starts the game, there tends to be certain trajectories that it can follow that are a little bit easier to get on with.
Yeah.
So early in the game, you're probably seeing something that's very human-like because they literally said, follow this human-like thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It probably, I'd imagine that you'd have an issue with like the openings where you don't have information from the opponent, that you're like, well, all these 20 answers are arbitrarily good. Or it would say, this is the best one by like 0.2%. So I'm always going to do that. Like there
Yeah, I
must be
mean,
a way.
that's the thing is like the whole purpose of this is to create one golden strategy, right?
Yeah.
But of course, it seems like what they've done is they figured out there's no golden strategy,
Yeah.
and that's where they've had to sort of introduce the ability for it to explore a few different strategies, and then kind of settle into a game that it's more comfortable with, that it's able to work out the calculations a bit more accurately. So one of the things that you might see from the paper scissors rock example is that, for example, the bot might start out doing, turtling, and then it figures out, then the enemy does a fast expand, and then it gets overrun. So, I should do a fast expand, and then the enemy does, a cheese tactic or something. It goes, I better not fast expand. I better cheese instead, and then it cheeses, and it goes, when someone turtles, they beat cheese. So, that's one of the things where they had these bots that were circling around, and then had to sort of teach it, well, pick a strategy, I guess, and then once you get into the game and learn a bit more information, then you can make some better decisions.
Now, my favorite thing to be, I don't think it did it in this game, but doesn't it chat at the beginning? Something it says like "Good luck, have fun" or GLA, little things like that.
That's what I've heard. I haven't actually played against it myself, but I have heard that it would try to sound a little bit human.
It's right. Yeah, they're really trying to mimic the human nature there a little bit.
Yeah, I think they don't want someone to know immediately what it is. You can definitely tell. Actually, one thing that you notice from the replays immediately is that it doesn't use control groups of any kind. So immediately after playing it, you know that you've played it if you look at the replay. But yeah, it would be hard to tell that this is what you're playing. Like based on what we're seeing from the Terran player so far, this is pretty normal. Even
well, did you see that target fire too? That looked, it seemed to prioritize the drones. That was very human looking. It was trying to get the drones and still skirt around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we don't really see that in our bots so much. That decision making.
And it's the same with ProBots. You don't really need control groups because you can actually specify individual units that you want to control and to do things. So you don't really need control groups. You can just what's called unit tags or unit IDs, and you can just say all these units with these IDs go and attack here or go and do this.
Well, there it goes again. It's prioritizing the drones, even though there's a couple lings left. Is able to clean up the lings still, but all in all, just some solid play out of AlphaStar. I mean, I would expect nothing less.
We say that, and the Liberator just flies through nowhere.
Trying to find a hole.
It's trying to, I don't know where it's going, but it's looking for something.
Oh yeah, not a good spot.
I think maybe I'm a tiny bit ahead of you, but because I'm in the live replay. But it's
I'll watch your stream here.
But you wouldn't think in particular that like this was not human. Like a lot of what it's doing, the decision making to it is human. But some of what, and maybe this is me being a tiny bit disappointed in what they're doing, but I kind of don't like how much they're basing it on what humans are doing. Like, I kind of wanted this to, like, the point of stuff like the chess bots and the go bots is I want to see where a bot is going to do something that a human has never thought of or never approached it this way or never whatever. And if we're basically, especially like at the start of the game, if we're saying you have to open this way and you have to do this and you have to whatever, then it's kind of, I really wanted to see what it was do that's not human.
Well, that's kind of the point where it starts to have to think for itself a little bit. You say, or do you think it's at that level where it can start making its own, like, I'm going to try?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
can't think of anything.
One of the things I said is that it had trouble remembering how to beat an opponent that it had previously beaten.
Yeah.
Because it had played against opponents with other strategies, and so what sort of seems to happen is, depending on what it plays against, it sort of forgets how to do things that it hasn't done for a while. So I would say the scenario where it does whatever, like some weird new strategy that nobody's ever seen before, the problem with that is it might do that and win against really good bots, but it might lose to humans because those bots were not doing things that humans were doing.
Right.
So the only way for them to really make it beat humans was to actually train it
like
against humans, or make it human-like, so that it would remember those sorts of games. So one of their, I guess, their challenges is to get it to remember everything and be able to, with every scenario. That's sort of, I guess, possible over the time of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we're a little bit behind the stream. What are you at, Tara? Are you at 8 minutes in 1 second? Okay, only a few seconds off. Okay, it's fine for now. Sorry.
So yeah, you can see the AlphaStar gun is at 3 bases. It's doing a lot of this stuff, like the tank placements, reasonably what you'd expect. It's putting bunkers at the edge of the ramp to kind of provide choke points. It's tentatively going on creep. I notice it's not like trying to scan and kill creep a lot, but other than that, it's doing a lot of like pretty normal stuff.
Well, and it's abusing the lack of anti-air here very well as well. It's using the medevacs to their full potential to save the units. It's got a Viking patrolling around. All in all, it's doing some solid harassment, keeping the Zerg player very busy.
Yeah, and it's averaging 187 APM, by the way.
Okay, so almost 200.
So that's about what we were thinking.
I'm surprised by the fact that it doesn't really have a lot of vision, but it seems to have a memory of what the enemy had at a certain point in time, and so it's chosen a strategy based on what it saw at that point in time.
Yeah, and that's something too. I know that. It's not seeing a lot. I'm not seeing a lot of like scans or anything too. So I kind of wonder how much it does prioritize, like getting information versus its opponent versus just doing what it thinks is right. And it kind of, you're not seeing a ton of that, like actions just to scout. I kind of want to see when we get to the Protoss game or the Zerg game, how much the overlords are used to move, how much observers are used.
There we go. Finally, it's a scan.
There's a scan to go.
What's that, Steve?
I was just saying it's clearing creep now, and I was surprised. I hadn't seen it do that before. So
yeah. Definitely necessary. Ooh, big stims. It's surprising to see all Marine. I guess there were only a few Banelings, not enough to clean up the Marines in the end. So a great decision just to go mass Marine plus 2 about to finish as well. I don't think it'll finish before all these Marines die, unfortunately. But
they do get this. They do get this base here.
Oh my God! Yeah, they target it down, sacrificing the lives.
Pretty good. And that's again something that in our our tournament, it's hard to see something do that. Like the things tend to be very self-preserving, and this is definitely willing to kill itself to achieve a goal. And I kind of like this sort of thing too, that again, you don't really see humans do so much, is it loaded everything into medevacs without, like, that wasn't really a drop. It was just to move it forward across the map. And it was going to drop it like on the edge of creep, but you don't get a lot of people doing that.
Well, it's because it can be a risk, if you run into the pack of queens spreading creep, you're gonna, lose your medevacs potentially. But solid play. Mm-hmm. Crushing Grandmasters. Look at AlphaStar go.
Yep. Got it.
Yeah, no, I wonder how much, if it has just a set build it's going to kind of start with every time, or does it go into every game, first second of the game is like, all right, I need to figure out what to do.
I think it'd be really interesting to pay attention to the scouting that it does and how it scouts. I imagine, a traditional opener, you're going to send out a scout, and if it's trained on humans, it's going to send out that scout probably just based on that sort of nudging that they did to say, do what humans do. And then, once it has enough information and sees the enemy base and sees some units, then maybe it'll go from there and make some decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? If it starts pumping out really weird units early on that you wouldn't expect, then that's when you might know that it's doing something, exploring and trying some other strategies. But the other thing is, though, like that I've learned with building a bot is there are only so many paths early on. I mean, you can't really do much early on. If you're playing as Terran, you supply depot, barracks, go from there. So there's a certain amount of time early in the game where there's only so much to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the things they had talked about before on this shift to we have to study human games. Is the problem is that there's only so many coherent things you can do, but there are actually a million things that you can do, and that's the problem. Is like you can wander your probes in a star formation. You can scout the third base of your opponent. You could build you can do a million things that are completely stupid. So the odds that you'd find the 2 or 3 that are coherent to open with, if you're just left to yourself, are pretty rare. So I think that's what I found started them.
Yeah, it's interesting because I found when I built a bot, going to train it with machine learning, but I made it, I think it might have been a Zerg bot or one of those, and I just let it do whatever it wanted to do, but I limited certain things like, obviously I was choosing build locations, and I was limiting when it would expand or how many, say for a Terran, you can limit how many barracks it will build. Mm-hmm. And actually you kind of give it the whole strategy right there. So you say, okay, you can only build 6 barracks. It'll just build 6 barracks, and then it will beat, it can potentially beat some pretty high level, the in-game AI. It can beat that in-game AI just doing random things. And, so if you nudge it a little bit, it can actually be quite successful.
So when is AlphaStar going to replace the Blizzard AI bots as just the normal practice AI?
I hope that's their announcement. I hope they're going to say, no, you just play against AlphaStar all the time. And it'd be nice if they could dial back the skill level so that it could learn, you're getting to this level, we'll try this strategy and teach you something more.
Yeah, it would be a lot more interactive and really give you a feel for, playing against another human, I think. Much more so, obviously, than current AI. Because current AI, you can abuse, you know what it's going to do, you know its timings, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's one thing that was difficult to do in chess programs is they had a great time making a chess program play at 2,500 ELO. They had a hard time making it play reasonably at a 1,500. Instead, it would play 10 moves at the 2,500 and then throw away a rook, and then play at the Grandmaster level again and throw away a pawn. That was its only way to do it. And they've gotten a lot better at doing that.
Mm-hmm. Well, StarCraft's a lot more about the timings and stuff too. So
they could slow it down, right, and just make it do things less quickly. Then you can beat it because you maybe you build a little bit faster and
you forget an SCV here or there, which slows down your.
Yeah, you could program in bad macro. Yeah.
There's a lot more little things you can tweak as opposed to in chess, where it's
get it to misclick things or do something like that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, speed, accuracy. You could misclick something. You could make it storm its own units every now and then.
Well, that's what's been the hard part.
Miss a force field every now and then. Something like that would be interesting.
It'd be nice if it actually helped you. If it because right now it knows what it wants to do, right? So it could help you and say, hey, maybe you should build something here, or maybe you should do this here, and
that's a really good point too.
Some level of certainty.
Yeah, if it showed what it would build next, that would be amazing. Yeah, that would be a really good training tool.
All right, we're on. Oh, you've got the old layout. I got to look on stream now. Kings Cove for our next match. Which one is which here? All right, bottom right, we've got our rando Zerg player. That means AlphaStar this time is Protoss. This is I really enjoyed watching the Stalker play when it played against TLO. This was months ago when they kind of debuted it. So I'm curious if it's just going to stick with that because it works really well, or if we will see some really new and interesting builds, kind of like you're hoping for, EnderSword.
Yeah, exactly. Like I want to pick up that that sort of deviation from the norm, and there's a few things that it was doing, like that people have pointed out, like the oversaturation of a main, and it's doing some stuff right here where it's like really slowly building this gas up. But yeah, I want to see weird stuff. Like I almost want to see it do things that only it does, that a human almost can't do or wouldn't do very well.
Interesting that it doesn't seem to be oversaturating at the moment. It just a little bit, but it seems to stay at the 16 level quite well. And the other thing that they announced is they're actually using a different neural net for each race. So now it's loaded the Protoss neural net. And I think that's probably got a lot to do with, well, I'd say there's two things. One is it'd be difficult if it's got Protoss and Terran and Zerg all in one neural net, and then it's playing as Protoss and it says, oh, I want to build a Terran unit, or I want to build a Zerg unit, or do something like that. The other would be probably that the enemy treats you differently based on what race you are. So it's probably a lot easier for it to learn, okay, when I'm playing as Protoss, this is what people tend to do. Potentially they could have one that knows, PvZ, this is how the game goes, and it be even more narrowed down in its strategy. But it seems to do well enough without having to know that, so quite interesting. I'd like to see them combine it all together. I'd say that's probably just a case of them having to tweak and improve, and maybe there's a certain limit to computation or memory that they have. It can't just be done with one neural net.
All right, now we might see, will AlphaStar do some scouting here? It's got the shade potential to get some really good intel, or it might just, again, kind of stick with what it knows and go down a certain path, as we've been seeing. Because I haven't seen it shade in just yet. Ooh, maybe? No.
I kind of think it's waiting.
Just kind of poking the outskirts.
Waiting for its buddy here.
Oh, yeah, that way it can one-shot the drones.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
See if this goes, but he's still, okay. Here comes the shade, so he's pulling back with the live ones. Shade will go into the main. I assume he'll cancel this. No, he's just going to go for the drones. It split its initial shot, though.
Ooh, is it targeting drones? I know I got one, I think 2, 3, 4. That, I guess we can't have the game heart overlay on for replay.
These
so
are
6.
All, 6 drones.
Not bad. Nice target fire.
Not too bad at all. And it's things like that I wonder if it will, and that's where you get into, it can play like a human in that you can limit its like actions and stuff, but no matter what you do, it's going to be perfectly accurate on what it intends to do. So if it intends to target fire a drone down, it will succeed. It's never going to misplay. So I wonder if it would eventually learn specifically to exploit things that it's good at.
There's one thing that I always struggle with, which is like, picking a particular unit. Like if you want to grab a worker that isn't on Vespene or isn't on, carrying minerals or something like that.
Yeah.
It can do without having to think about it, without having any delay. It just knows this is the one that doesn't have this one that's closest to this location.
Yeah.
That's, not carrying minerals or whatever, and it doesn't have to think about it. Where a human has to sort of observe and make a decision and go, that's the one I want, and like you say, potentially miss it.
Yeah. Yeah, and
has AlphaStar versus AlphaStar, obviously it's been done, but has it been done for us to see? Like, is there a game out there I could go watch, AlphaStar versus AlphaStar?
I don't know
about
current ones. They did do that. I think they showed some agent versus agent back with the PvP only, but I don't think I've seen them.
They're getting so many kills.
Yeah,
that's how they trained it, right? They built an AlphaStar league, and they basically had what they changed for this round is they had some agents or some players that were there to just win at all costs, and then what they had is these other players that were there designed to exploit the weaknesses of the main players. So that's how they kind of trained it to never really favor one thing over another too much. Prodded with certain attacks and certain strategies. And I don't know if those were hard coded or how they did those, but that's how they said they kept it in line and not forgetting about how to play against this strategy or that strategy.
Yeah. Now its Protoss seems to be a lot more harass oriented. I think we saw 1 drop, maybe 2 as Terran, but Oracles have been slaughtering drones. Adepts have even been making it into mineral lines. There's like 25 workers dead or something at this point, whatever the counter was at.
Yeah, we've got 4 Oracles.
It's not done.
Roman.
That's its army, is a harass army. It's just Adepts and Oracles. Finally, Immortals are coming out for a little bit of an anchor, but man, it is in just such a sweet spot right now.
Yeah, it's a good way to go. Again, it's not going to ever accidentally lose a unit. So it should know exactly when to pull an Oracle out and to keep it alive. It should never be a mistake.
Well, but we saw when the Marines were dropping last game, after it killed the hatchery, there was 2 Marines, and the medevac could have picked them up and got them out, but it just decided, nah,
not to.
Just gonna let them die. So I wonder what makes it decide, I just don't care about this unit anymore.
And it did just so it did just let an Oracle die to die for more workers and the Queen there. So it clearly can make those decisions, but
the one thing about the AlphaStar versus a ProBot is that a hard-coded bot is that actually the hard-coded bot probably has an advantage in that you can do calculations like if I'm this distance away or if I'm in this scenario, you can actually make calculations specifically to make a decision, whereas AlphaStar is not going to do that. It's not doing those sorts of calculations. It's just going, when I'm in this scenario, my chances of being able to retreat without losing a unit are X. And so it uses that only. It doesn't actually do any other little minor calculations.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing too, how much it does or does not do that stuff, because you would almost expect a machine learning bot or a bot of any kind to be able to make any calculation you want it to. It's just what's worth putting in and how does it think about it. So if you were able to, if you had an observer on the other side of the map and it saw an army leave on King's Cove, it should know, okay, roaches will be at my base in 12.2 seconds or something like that. It should know certain things that a human kind of intuitively knows but doesn't really know, and it should know it to that level of precision that it knows exactly when to warp in whatever it needs or whatever. But I don't think it does do any of that. It's just situational, like you're saying.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because that's kind of almost the humanness of of AlphaStar, is that it's kind of not perfect, and that allows it to sort of look like a human and also have some of the same flaws that a human would have.
Yeah, for sure. Now, one thing we said before, and this may be compensated by the fact that it's harassing so much, but I was curious on whether or not it would build observers everywhere to take advantage of information. It has none. So now it's getting oracles everywhere in the adepts. So, but obviously it didn't see, say, this Ling run by that was happening. It was blind that this was going to occur.
It is very interesting. It doesn't seem to favor vision or information. It seems to go. It probably even just knows in these circumstances.
Yeah,
this is likely to be what the enemy is doing, and it can make decisions based on that.
Yeah, exactly. And I was kind of wondering too what it would do in terms of, when I was originally thinking of how it would behave, would it make a calculation that there's a cost to something and then the benefit of that thing? But again, I don't think it's doing it in that explicit sort of way, where it's this costs 400 and I get this gain, so I will do it or I won't do it.
It does in a sense, but not in
that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't go, I'm going to trade this many units for this many units, and that's beneficial. It's getting a reward for winning or losing. Actually, I think they don't give a lot of detail, but they did change the reward structure so that it might get rewards for killing units or killing a base, or maybe a negative reward if it loses units and those sorts of things. It's really just going, if I take this action, a bad thing is going to happen. It's going to be a negative reward. If I take this action, it's going to actually be a positive reward. So it's doing a calculation, but it's not sitting there going, well, you can trade this much for this much, and that's a better economical trade-off. It just knows, if I do this thing, eventually that leads to a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is very much how machine learning in general thinks, is like, it doesn't even know why it's doing it. It just knows that that thing is correlated with good or points or something.
Why do you do anything?
Yeah, well, because I'm clearly calculating distances from the center point of it. Like, why does anyone do anything?
Exactly.
Yeah. But here it's kind of overrunning out. Funny that it did run into locusts and run away from them.
Just to regroup. I love how diverse the army is. It's got a smattering of everything. All the disruptors, DTs, sentries, archons, immortals, stalkers, half the Protoss army. The oracles, I'm assuming.
You notice there too. Oh, it's even hallucinating archons here.
Yeah, its micro has been on point. It's been really good at pulling back to get a better concave, pulling the zealots back, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there it is. GG. I gotta put my costume back on for someone there. Yes, we did dress up in the spirit of Halloween today. Steven showed up as a bot maker for Halloween. That is his costume. Do you still actively make bots? Are you still, on the day-to-day working on stuff?
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky. It takes quite a lot of time. So, I've got things in life. I just came back from a holiday, and I've got a house that I've built, and I'm getting ready for Christmas with my family, and got to finish off some parts around the house. So that's kind of taken my priority at the moment. But I still play around with it. I was just messing around with some stuff in the last couple of weeks, and really just I'm not playing. My bots aren't on the ladder because I don't have enough time to really build out a bot that's competitive at that level. Mm-hmm. But I'm more experimenting with ways to introduce small parts of machine learning or reinforcement learning into a bot, so that potentially it can look at a certain situation and just have machine learning for that piece. Like, I don't know, if there's these Marines here and these Zerglings here, and it can work out automatically. Well, if they come together, I'm going to win or lose, or I should reinforce, or I should do other things. So it's not as tied to reinforcement learning in the truest sense, but looking at ways to help people build bots and introduce machine learning into bots, and just seeing what it can do. And some of those things might be, say, looking at a replay and looking at what the enemy is doing in a certain situation, and then being able to predict where it's likely to be, or what it's likely to be doing based on what it's observed. Those kinds of things, which you don't need reinforcement learning for. You can use typical machine learning or even some sort of statistical analysis to come up with a solution. So that's more what I'm doing. So putting together a bot with a bunch of builds and then putting it on the ladder and then going, oh no, I'm getting beaten by Micro Machine, I better go and change that. It's not really what I'm spending my time on. So those guys are, I watch those, how much energy must go into those bots, and I think those guys have done such a great job.
Now, you also do bits of code. Have you been working on any new ones of those, or obviously people can go check out your old ones?
Yep. Yeah, I'm working on. I think Matisse did a build sort of tutorial, and so I've been looking at that and just trying to see if I can build that out and do it in a way that people can reproduce that. Do a tutorial for people to understand how to reproduce that. So I'm working on that at the moment. And really, it's the same thing with the machine learning, trying to work out, well, what can I do in a machine learning sense that I can introduce that people can then implement and play around with and have fun with.
Very nice.
Cool.
Well, we've got one more segment coming up. Do you have any questions, Dave, so far?
One of the things that I was thinking, given how they train it, and I kind of wonder when they do the ladder, obviously, is to counteract this a bit. But when you're training bots against the bots, again, we talked about like their accuracy and that they're not going to make like just mistakes. I wonder if it gears them at all away from or towards certain strategies, like say if you were a Zerg using banelings against the Marines, if it would learn that banelings are always not that good because the other AI splits Marines perfectly. Like, I wonder if there's a bit of a curve where it rules out certain strategies that, if responded to correctly, don't work. But because there's no human error, it will never work.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
it's possible, but then does it necessarily split things perfectly?
Yeah.
Not sure, because it's it's doing the same thing where it can only take certain actions and it can only control things in a certain way, and it makes decisions about what it thinks is the best thing to do. So it may not necessarily make the best decision. It'll execute on its decision perfectly, but it won't necessarily make the best decision.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a little bit of that, and I think limiting the APM probably controls that as well.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we're ready for our next game.
Yeah, jumping into.
I got the countdown.
This one we are.
Got left Zerg, right?
Yeah. Do I have to re-put?
Yeah, restart your stream again.
Yeah, every time I load one, the reason I'm on old replays, so every time I load one, it restarts. No, it's fine. Yeah, I kind of wonder too. We've discussed this in the past too, with say cloaked units and stuff, that it's hard for a computer basically to almost see something, or like uncertain. Like, it's hard for it to do anything in an uncertain way. So either it sees something or it doesn't see something. And it's similar with say that a drop is coming in. A human player might literally miss that a little dot has passed it on a mini-map, and the AI shouldn't be able to miss that. It should see it. And like, I think there's a few things like that where someone can be literally, as a human, distracted or not looking at something, but it can't. So I wonder how they kind of compensate for that as well, or that they just kind of let that happen.
The invisible units thing is probably the toughest challenge, and I don't think there's really going to be a solution for that. I know that it will see that there's an invisible unit, but it doesn't know what it is, so it still has to scan or whatever. So that gets around that a bit, but yeah, I mean, still have to see it. They did change it. It used to be able to see the whole map, and all the units on the map, and do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Apparently they're now doing it with screen controls the same way that a human does, so potentially it could still miss detail. Like, it's definitely going to see that something is moving on the minimap if it's vision, but it's going to miss the detail if it hasn't got the screen in the right location, because you can quickly click the screen to exactly the right location, get the information, and then jump away without having to, there's no context switching going on in the brain or anything like that. It just absorbs that information perfectly.
Yeah,
it's definitely a tough challenge.
I kind of wonder if it's picked up too. I heard that thing about the cloaked units too, of like, you see them but you don't know what it is, but it's not stupid, so I assume it's also figured out, well, I saw a starport and I didn't see a ghost academy, so it's a banshee, not a like, it must be pretty trivial to do that. Well,
but what against Protoss though? If there's a mothership and everything is cloaked, all of a sudden Archons, which aren't supposed to be cloaked, are cloaked. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that would be a harder one. Yeah, that would be a harder one. But like, observer,
that is the other thing.
Yeah.
I guess it could have perfect memory, but that doesn't mean it does have perfect memory.
Yeah.
So, unless they've coded it to specifically remember everything at every point in time, I'm sure they've coded something in so it remembers a little bit of what it's seen, but it's still going to have partial information, so it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah, it doesn't know everything. For sure. The lings here seem to act a little bit weird. It felt like they were chasing one probe around until they just kind of died. Like, it didn't seem like they were target firing down, like compared to like the adepts that we saw in the Protoss game where it was going specifically for kills. That one seemed a little bit odd.
I like seeing it spread creep. I wonder how it chooses locations and when to spread and all that. Like, it's interesting. I wonder if it builds creep tumors where it should be putting a building and then freaks out and doesn't know what to do.
Well, yeah, because there is a creep tumor right there where a wall would sometimes go. But I mean, you could still build around that a little bit. Creep tumors are pretty small. As long as he keeps them spread out, I can't see him really being too much of a problem. Ooh, Dark Shrine out of our Protoss player.
That'll be interesting.
Speaking of cloaked units, yeah.
So it does, just kind of, again, looking at how much it values vision, and it doesn't seem like a lot yet. It does have that one Overlord in the position that, you know, everyone puts it up on that high ground there. But it's not really sending Overlords out. It just kind of got them staked out around the map, like looking at choke points, but it's not like out aggressively trying to scout at the moment.
And I'd say the position of those is possibly coming from that early game human nudging, where it's probably just and have an Overlord and send it over here, and then it kind of forgets what's in there.
Yeah.
Although it could be a weakness. I mean, if you take the Overlord out and it doesn't know how to put one back, then it doesn't have the vision that maybe it assumes it is going to have.
Yeah, that's true too. Like, especially if you're in that state where it's copying something, but it doesn't know why, or it doesn't have a good reason to, then yeah, it won't react when something changes it. So
can you put the production tab back on there? Thank you. I'm blind without it.
Killing some lings here. It pulled over drones to like oversaturate to get away from the other adepts, the other base, but it's dealing with this reasonably well.
Not too many workers this time around.
But there are the DTs now going directly after hatchery. This is someone I like.
Yeah, no response. A Spore Crawler coming down after the fact, but that's far too late. I mean, there wasn't really much there to defend it anyway. And these DTs are running rampant right now. Finally, a Spore will get Burrow, but right as it does, it moves it with the warp. He moves them with the Warp Prism. So he's giving AlphaStar a run for its money right now. AlphaStar having a little bit of trouble keeping up with these.
Yeah, this almost feels exploitative because
a little bit
like that's not something you would expect a human opponent to do, is like to put that Spore out there.
This is even for DTs, it's a little untraditional to go this many and do the work.
You'll also notice the DTs got dropped, and then AlphaStar acted, so it's more reactive. Whereas human would go, "Oh, there's probably going to be a drop there. I'm going to send some units to defend."
Exactly.
It seems to be far more reactive in those scenarios.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be the giveaway, I think. If immediately on a drop, a bunch of units moved, you'd know that it was AlphaStar.
Yeah. Man, these Archons now going to catch a couple of roaches. Very nicely done.
With that Archon drop right there, it still built a hatchery right next to it. It's actually pretty good control from this Protoss here. Juggling these Archons back really.
Oh, and Dookie, so we're 8 seconds ahead of the actual stream. That in mind. Yeah. I don't know if you saw the note there. I keep forgetting. Yeah. Oh, that's unfortunate. The third's going to go down, it looks like, but the Observer gets picked off there. That's a little unfortunate for our Protoss player. So maybe this is the moment AlphaStar starts to recover.
Yeah.
Potentially. He is down on workers a lot, though.
Yeah, he lost a lot to both the Adepts, DTs. Obviously lost the whole base, so that's a lot of larva gone. So yeah, this one, for some reason in my mind, I was just assuming that AlphaStar would win all 3 of these games, but it's quite possible, of course, that they did not.
Yeah, it's not infallible. You can lose.
That's it. I think they had the average MMR just a little over 6,000. Of course, there's humans up to 7,000 something. Only a few of them, but definitely like a lot of pretty much your WCS level players are all better than that. So so definitely it's still going to lose to a lot of opponents. Still getting a lot of work down there with the Archon.
Did it win like 98% or 99% of its games? Something like that?
I think so.
Yeah.
It was also a little weird. I don't know if they talked about this in the paper part, but I had heard that they were only letting them play like 50 games on the ladder, and then they'd switch to another account. And so, of course, you're going to win your first like 45 games because you're going to start at like gold, and you're just going to kill them. And so it's really only playing like probably the last half at most against people at its own level.
Yeah, master.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if Blizzard gave them a hand and just modified the account and said, okay, Grandmaster, and go from there.
So it's able to grab. So DTs again kind of went unchecked here at the third base. The Archons are just. This is the most successful Archon drop, by the way, that's ever happened.
He's playing Ring Around the Rosie right now.
There were 23 and 31 kills on the 2 Archons before the first one died there.
Jeez.
And now AlphaStar is playing catch up by trying to take 2 bases at once, not yet rebuilding the third. But it's definitely.
It's trying to recover. That's one way to recover, especially if you can get away with it. What's the army supply looking like? Actually, it's kind of even still.
It's kind of a case where the Protoss is doing a ton of damage and just dancing circles around him, but the Protoss has not taken a 4th base. Mm-hmm. So it feels like it was his advantage to give up or not seize, and he hasn't really seized it. So this game could be a complete blowout, but it's kind of like the Protoss doesn't.
Yeah, AlphaStar behind all that can still macro, can still be doing all this stuff where a human player might get distracted by all these little harassments, all the DTs, the Archon drops, and just get too focused on that their macro does slip a little bit. But AlphaStar's macro is still, it's almost caught back up here with our Protoss. It was down quite a bit, but Storm is still so good. We'll see. I've been seeing a lot of Storm recently in WCS. There's been a lot of Storm play. It's been really nice. Trap was doing some, I think.
Yeah, quite a good thing. Now, so I kind of do want to see how it reacts when it gets Stormed. Yeah, and not well.
It eats it.
It just kind of does eat it. Yeah.
I tried to pull back. Okay, there we go.
That one was a lot better. Yeah.
But so many zealots there. As long as the Protoss keeps its army together, then this should be a successful attack. I mean, that third base has just never been able to go up. The 4th is now kind of exposed.
Yeah, Protoss exactly between the 2 parts of the army, which is usually lovely for a surround, but it's too big to make that work. It just is 2 weak parts of an army.
Yeah.
Takes that out.
I think AlphaStar's starting to fall apart a little bit here.
It does feel like that. Protoss looking to where it's going to go and press its advantage. The main is half mined out. The natural starting to get mined out, and I think it is just going to push towards the northern base. And AlphaStar again not really acting like it's anticipating that. Like the army in the southern base is just content to stay down there.
It definitely seems reactive when it doesn't have any vision. You can see the units just sit there, and as soon as it has vision, units sort of jump in and take action.
All right. Apparently, we're getting someone saying that the MMR was seeded, so maybe they did get to start at a higher MMR for later.
Hacks.
Yeah.
It's cheating.
Yeah.
It's almost necessary.
It makes sense. Yeah. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, wasting
time. Not only you're wasting your time, but you're creating. If you're using a lot of agents too, you're creating an annoyance for lower level players.
Poor gold players. Waffle stomp.
You're killed by a robot Smurf. Like big storm here.
I hate this game. AlphaStar does have a good position on the ramp, but there's so many immortals behind all of this.
Yeah, starting to fall down here now, and of course it's just out of bases. At this point, it's only got the main and the natural. There's not a lot of income coming, and let's see. Actually, does it say anything? Does it just leave?
It just BMs and just wait. Okay, it just leaves. I was gonna makes the Protoss kill all his buildings.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering. Like, what's the deal on that?
No GG.
Yeah, but it must have an assessment. I mean, I know it does, like, kind of have an assessment of where it is in the game throughout it, and it must have like a sense of like whether I'm winning or losing or what the deal is. Yeah.
Well, some solid games overall there.
Yeah, cool.
What are your main thoughts, I guess, Stephen, on that? Has it come a long way from your first time seeing it when it was first debuted?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, being able to play as all 3 races. I know that Terran and Zerg had some bugs in the API. That's kind of why they chose Protoss, and some of those bugs have been fixed. There's a few other little ones, but so it's amazing to see them playing as all three races and playing so well. Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see whether it can do a little bit more predictive actions and sort of rather than being reactionary, if it can try and get in there and okay, there's going to be a drop over here because I saw something go past, and so I'm going to go and intercept. It'd be interesting to see if it can actually achieve that level. And I think at that point, it's basically,
it's pretty much a human at that point, right?
Yeah.
Well, better than human because it's going to make a perfect decision.
Yeah.
And, if they can make the system smart enough, it could potentially know that I only have to send this many units and that'll destroy that, and I can now split the rest off and go over here and do these other things. So, and because it has somewhat perfect control, I guess it'll be able to, instead of just splitting two, it could have 3 or 4 points of attack and then control them, not perfectly because it has a limited APM, but it can control them quite well and sort of manage those better than a human could. I think a human brain just can't handle those many things going on at once and receiving that much information and computing it that quickly. So it's very impressive. I think it's amazing how they've been able to put that together that quickly. And I'm kind of excited to see where it goes and whether we just you install StarCraft and the first thing you do is start playing against AlphaStar and it starts teaching you how to play better. And who knows, they might get rid of Bronze League and everyone else just has to move up a bit.
What if you had some sort of AlphaStar element into the campaign mode? I think that would be kind of cool. It would make instead of the same old cut and dry campaign mission, there's a little diversity. You get a little, little something else.
Yeah. It'd be nice if you had a co-op mode and AlphaStar could play with you and he could be the
that'd
co-op.
be cool too. Yeah, there's a lot. I think there's a lot of
there's a lot you could do. Like once people get this technology to a point, like everyone wants to code this AI into their game to have the enemy be that. And like it would imagine having a campaign that people can't make a guide for, because if people made a guide for how to beat a mission, the AI would learn to stop you. And like everyone would have to figure it uniquely. You wouldn't have this dumb AI anymore that just followed a script. It would try and counterplay against what people are doing.
I think that's probably another level as well is this AlphaStar, as far as I can tell, they train it and train it and train it, and then they deploy one single thing that's kind of pre-trained. So it never really learns from the games on the ladder unless they take those replays and then load them in and train it manually. So to have something that actually trains based on real world scenarios, trains as it goes, then you have something like that where a particular strategy is popular, it learns how to defend against that strategy and then, sort of shifts things a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, is there anything you think we can learn about the balance of the game? Is there anything that stands out to you about just, is the game balanced after watching some of these AlphaStar results?
I think it probably shows that it is. The fact that it can win so well in every race, it'd be interesting because I doubt that it chooses the race. So it'd be interesting to see if you trained it to choose a race and then it always chose Protoss or whatever, then you go, okay, that's definitely the OP race. It might possibly be able to exploit certain units and teach us about something that we hadn't seen in advance. So maybe before Blizzard releases a balance patch, they run it through AlphaStar and see if AlphaStar tends to mass a certain unit or do something a certain way. Maybe they can use that to test it. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like it's fairly well balanced, and the internet will yell and scream that it's otherwise. But I think the thing about balance is that it's really about the state of the game at that point. It's not necessarily balanced for all time. It's balanced for what's happening at that point and how people are playing and who's playing. So, AlphaStar being a part of that might actually change how it has to be balanced, because maybe it will be a longer term balance.
Will it finally stop the balance wine? That's what I want to know.
No, never.
Nothing will.
No way. No way that
Never
will.
in it.
Yeah, I kind of wonder. I kind of think to that point, like to me, the way that balance drifts is whenever there's a change, the games shorten and then they drift longer. So ultimately, no matter what is an early game unit that's in balance, it will always drift to which race is the longest, is the better end game one, because people learn. Balance tends to shift on, we learn an attack and then we learn to defend the attack. Then we learn more and more efficient ways to defend the attack. The attack doesn't usually get better. The defense gets better. So I kind of want to see, like, these games have been like 10, 12 minutes. I kind of would be curious to see if the AlphaStar playing itself tended to over time be 40-minute games or something. Because
I imagine that
yeah,
Blizzard is balancing for a certain game length, right? They don't want them
Yeah.
to be too short, so you just get beaten. They don't want to be too long because they get a bit boring and a bit tedious. So they want that perfect middle ground.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of wonder where it ended up, because I would think that like they have their little rock paper scissors formation. Generally, the rock that it's almost rock paper scissors turtle that ends up being the real meta of the game, and turtle wins. And that's kind of the way that it seems to go. And I kind of want to see if it hit that on its own.
It'd be interesting to see if people develop strategies just for AlphaStar that they don't really play against a human. They go, oh, this is AlphaStar, this is the strategy you have to play, and then you kind of do something completely different when they're playing a human.
Yeah. I think you would. I think if you know you're playing it, why would you not try and, like, just from that last game we saw, I've got to say it's pretty weak to drops and it's pretty weak to DTs. Like,
definitely.
Yeah.
That reactiveness, I think, is its biggest weakness at the moment, where it doesn't know what's in a drop.
Yeah.
It's got no vision. It's not going, oh, well, they're making these units, so in that drop is likely to be this.
Yeah.
So then it waits until the units drop, and then it goes, oh, no, now I've got to attack or I've got to do this thing.
Yeah.
And it seemed to almost, in some cases, overreact as well. It sent a lot of units in, where a human might go, I can deal with that with, these things, and then not be too distracted. So it seems like at the moment maybe it's a little bit vulnerable to being distracted and pulling all its units back and dealing with a minor situation.
Yeah, that did appear true too. It also, even like the movement of the spore crawler, it looked like, again, it wasn't anticipating. It was like, I need, the DTs are here right now and my army's here right now, so I'm going to put the spore crawler right here while your base is over there. And it hadn't moved the other one from the main yet. Like, so again, it's not anticipating and it's reacting in a way that probably a human would not do.
All right. Well, that's it for the games. Any final thoughts on AlphaStar? How long do you think until it takes over the world?
6 months.
6 months.
That's about it. Yeah. I guess I'm just excited to see what they can do with it. And I know back in BlizzCon 2017, I was talking to the guys from Blizzard at the summit we had there, and they were like, machine learning is difficult to put into a game because it can behave unpredictably. It can do all sorts of things. So you don't want it to be the core of your game. But it seems like at this point, that's an option. So, who knows? The DeepMind team is going to BlizzCon. So let's see what they do and what they announce. And I imagine there'll be some sort of collaboration in the future where they'll bring it into the game a lot more, maybe some other aspects of the game, and maybe make the game a little bit more interesting. Somebody who maybe doesn't want to play on the ladder against humans and all the filth that goes on and all those sorts of things. And, you can just play against something that will improve your skill without having to get out there on the scary ladder. And
for sure.
Ladders can be toxic sometimes, so I definitely feel that.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, we're going to wrap things up here. We do have one more segment coming up just after a quick break. We're moving on to our normal ProBots. We've got 7 matches from our bot creators. Definitely stick around for that. Check it out if you want to help support stuff like this. Our ProBot scene, obviously, our Commendium Challenge, all sorts of events here on ESChamp. Type in !join, or you can also subscribe, hit that button up top to do so. You get lots of cool perks. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Let's go to a break. Everybody stay
right.
tuned for ProBots. Thank you, Stephen, for joining us. Very nice to have your insight. Obviously, you know quite a bit. Definitely check his segment out, Bits of Code. Can they find that on YouTube, correct? Or where can they find that? Just on YouTube?
It's on the US10 YouTube.
Excellent. So yeah, go give that a look for all aspiring bot creators. And all aspiring bot creators, stay tuned, especially because we're going to be back with our ProBots in just 5 or 10 minutes, something like that. I don't know. We'll be back. Stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in. Bye, everybody, for now.